I was standing behind my husband's chair about to ask if he wanted coffee when I saw the text message light up his phone screen. "Your wife is too old for you. Time to trade up for a younger model." My blood turned to ice. His fingers moved across the screen, and I watched him type back. "You're right, I've been thinking the same thing." I was 58 years old. We'd been married for 34 years, and I was reading my death sentence over his shoulder while he sat there, comfortable in our home, plotting my disposal like I was an outdated appliance. My name is Catherine Mitchell, and that moment, that single shattering moment, was when my entire world came into sharp, brutal focus. Everything I'd been ignoring, every excuse I'd made, every suspicion I'd pushed down came roaring back with crystal clarity. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him right there. Instead, I walked back to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water with steady hands, and began to plan. But before I tell you what happened next, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. I've heard from women all over this country who've been where I was, and knowing I'm not alone got me through the darkest days. So let me know you're out there. Now let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand what I had built, what I stood to lose, and why I refused to let him destroy me. Robert and I met in 1990 in Seattle, Washington. I was 24, fresh out of business school, working at a tech startup before tech startups were cool. He was 27, charismatic, ambitious, working in finance. We were the golden couple, young, in love, ready to conquer the world together. I put him through his MBA. When his career took off, I stepped back from mine to raise our 2 children, Emma and Jack. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was investing in our family. And I was, but I was also investing in his future while mine gathered dust. By 2024, our kids were grown. Emma was 32, a doctor in Boston. Jack was 29, an engineer in San Francisco. Robert was a senior vice president at a major investment firm in downtown Seattle. And me? I was just a housewife, as his secretary Vanessa liked to call me. Vanessa Pierce, 29 years old. Blonde, ambitious, and apparently very interested in my husband's assets, both professional and personal. I'd met her exactly 3 times. Each time she looked at me with barely concealed contempt, like I was a relic from a bygone era. She'd smile with her perfectly white teeth and say things like, "Oh, you don't work. That must be so relaxing," with just enough condescension to sting. Robert would laugh it off. "She's just young and doesn't understand," he'd say. But standing there in my kitchen that October evening, watching the Seattle rain streak down the windows, I understood something perfectly clearly. Vanessa understood exactly what she was doing, and so did my husband. I didn't sleep that night. While Robert snored peacefully beside me, God, the audacity. I lay there in the darkness, my mind working through everything with surgical precision. Here's what I knew about my situation. We lived in Washington State, a community property state. Everything acquired during our marriage was half mine by law. The house we'd bought in Madison Park 30 years ago, now worth $2.8 million. His retirement accounts, his stock options, the investment portfolio I'd helped build by sacrificing my own career. But I also knew that in a contested divorce, things could get ugly. Assets could be hidden, money could disappear. And Robert, with all his financial expertise and connections, would have every advantage, unless I moved first. At 3 a.m., I got up quietly and went to Robert's home office. His laptop was password protected, but I knew the password. It was Emma's birthday. He'd never changed it because he'd never thought he needed to. Why would he? I was just his aging wife, too old and too trusting to be a threat. I spent the next hour taking screenshots and photographs with my phone, every document I could find, bank statements, investment accounts, credit card statements showing charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel bookings I'd never heard about, his emails, his emails. There were hundreds of messages between Robert and Vanessa. They went back 8 months. Can't wait to see you this weekend. I told Catherine I have a business conference. You deserve someone who keeps herself up, not someone who's let herself go. Once I'm free, we can finally start our life together. Just need to time this right financially. My hands shook as I read them, but I didn't stop. I forwarded everything to a private email account I created right there, one Robert didn't know existed. Every single piece of evidence went into that account. Then I found the most damning document of all, a consultation agreement with a divorce attorney dated 2 weeks earlier. Robert had already been planning this. He'd been calculating how to minimize what I'd get, strategizing how to protect his assets. He was going to blindside me, leave me scrambling, unprepared and vulnerable. But I'd found out first. As dawn broke over Lake Washington, painting our bedroom in soft pink light, I had a complete picture of our financial situation and his betrayal. I knew exactly what we had and where it was. I had evidence that would prevent him from hiding assets or claiming dissipation. Robert woke up around 7, stretching and yawning like he didn't have a care in the world. "Morning," he said, kissing my forehead with those lying lips. "Sleep well?" "Like a baby," I lied right back. He went for his morning run, probably texting Vanessa the whole time, while I made breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast. The same breakfast I'd made him for 34 years. I watched him eat it, chatting about his day, his meeting, completely oblivious. "I'll be late tonight," he said, grabbing his briefcase. "Dinner meeting with clients." "Of course," I said sweetly. "Have a great day, honey." The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I made my first phone call. Jennifer Morrison's office. My hands were steady now. The shock had burned away, leaving something harder, colder, sharper in its place. "I need to speak with Ms. Morrison. It's urgent." Jennifer Morrison was the best divorce attorney in Seattle. I knew because she'd handled my friend Patricia's divorce 3 years ago and gotten her everything she deserved. Patricia had given me Jennifer's number after her case settled, saying, "Keep this just in case. You never think you'll need it until you do." God bless Patricia. Within an hour, I was sitting in Jennifer's office in downtown Seattle. She was 55 with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. I showed her everything: the texts, the emails, the financial documents, the consultation with his attorney. Jennifer's expression never changed, but I saw the flash of anger in her eyes. She'd seen this story 1,000 times, but it still made her furious. "Here's what we're going to do," she said, leaning forward. "Washington is a community property state, which means you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. But your husband clearly knows this, and he's already preparing to play games. So we're going to move fast, and we're going to move smart." She outlined the plan. File first thing in the morning. Simultaneously file for protection of assets to prevent him from transferring, hiding, or dissipating marital property. Get restraining orders on all accounts. Strike before he even knows what's happening. "But first," Jennifer said, "you need to protect yourself financially. Today. Right now." My second stop was our bank, the one where we'd done business for 28 years. I walked in with my wedding ring still on my finger and my head held high. "I need to speak with a manager about my accounts." David Chen had been our relationship manager for 15 years. He knew both Robert and me. He smiled warmly when he saw me. "Mrs. Mitchell, what can I do for you today?" "I need to make some transfers, David." We had 3 joint accounts, one checking account with roughly $50,000, one savings account with $200,000, one money market account with $380,000. I transferred exactly half of each into a new account, solely in my name, at a different bank. David's smile faltered slightly. "Is everything all right, Mrs. Mitchell?" "Everything is fine," I said calmly. "Just some financial reorganization. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't even unethical. It was community property. Half of it was mine. I was simply taking possession of what already belonged to me before Robert could make it disappear." From the bank, I went to see our financial advisor, Marcus Reynolds. Same story. I wanted detailed statements of every account, every investment, every asset with my name on it. I wanted to know about any recent changes or planned changes. Marcus was less accommodating than David. Perhaps we should have Robert in this conversation. Marcus, I said, my voice like ice, I am on every single one of these accounts. I have every legal right to this information. You can provide it willingly, or I can have my attorney subpoena it. Your choice. I had the documents within the hour. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, I had repositioned $315,000 into accounts Robert couldn't touch. I had copies of every financial document we owned. I had retained the best divorce attorney in Seattle. And I had an appointment at her office at 8 o'clock the next morning to file papers. But I still had to go home and face him. Robert came home at 9:30, reeking of perfume that wasn't mine. He didn't even try to hide it anymore. "How was your dinner meeting?" I asked, setting a plate of reheated pasta in front of him. "Fine, boring, you know how these things are." I didn't know, actually. I'd never been invited to any of his work dinners in the last 5 years. Now I understood why. He ate while scrolling through his phone, smiling at messages I could only imagine. I sat across from him, memorizing his face. The man I'd loved for 34 years, the man I'd built a life with, the father of my children, a stranger. "Catherine," he said suddenly, not looking up from his phone, "we need to talk about something this weekend." My heart stopped. "Oh? Yeah, about our future. Some changes I think we need to make." He was going to do it this weekend. He was going to ask for a divorce on his terms, on his timeline, with his preparations complete and me completely unaware. "Sure," I said softly. "We can talk this weekend." He smiled, relieved. "Great. I think you'll understand it's for the best." For the best. Like our marriage was a failing business venture. Like I was a bad investment that needed to be liquidated. I excused myself and went to our bedroom. I pulled out my phone and texted Jennifer. "He's planning to ask for divorce this weekend. We need to file first thing tomorrow." Her response was immediate. "I'll have everything ready. See you at 8 a.m. That night, I lay in bed next to Robert for the last time, listening to him breathe. I thought about our wedding day, young and full of hope. I thought about bringing our babies home to this house, first days of school, graduations, family vacations, all of it real, all of it meaningful, all of it about to become evidence in a court case. I thought about Vanessa, 29 years old, texting my husband that I was too old for him. I thought about Robert agreeing, typing those words without a moment's hesitation. And I thought about the fact that I wasn't too old for anything. I was 58 years old. Statistically, I had another 30 years ahead of me. I'd spent 34 years building someone else's dream. Maybe it was time to build my own. When my alarm went off at 6:30, Robert was already in the shower. I got dressed carefully, a navy blue suit I'd bought years ago for a charity gala. Professional, powerful. I looked at myself in the mirror. "This is it, Catherine," I whispered. "No going back." Robert came out of the bathroom, toweling his hair. "You look nice. Where are you going?" I smiled. "Just some errands. I'll see you tonight." It was the last normal thing I would ever say to him. Jennifer Morrison's office was in a glass tower overlooking Elliott Bay. At exactly 8 a.m., I walked through those doors and signed my name on 23 different documents. Petition for dissolution of marriage, request for temporary restraining order on all marital assets, financial declaration, parenting plan. Our kids were adults, but it was still required. Property declaration. My hand cramped by the end, but I didn't stop. Each signature was an act of reclamation. Each document was a piece of my freedom. "Now what?" I asked when the last page was signed. "Now we file these at the courthouse, and a process server delivers them to Robert. I recommend having it done at his office." "At his office?" I repeated. Jennifer's smile was sharp. "You want him to know you're serious. Serve him in front of his colleagues, in front of Vanessa. Make it clear that you're not the quiet, compliant wife he thinks you are. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Do it. There's something else, Jennifer said, pulling out another document. I did some digging into Robert's company. He received a significant stock option grant 6 months ago. It vests in 2 years, but it was granted during your marriage. Under Washington law, you're entitled to half the value. How much are we talking? Current valuation? Approximately $1.2 million. I felt dizzy. Robert had never mentioned any stock grant. Not once. He was hiding it, I said slowly. He was hiding it, Jennifer confirmed. But he didn't hide it well enough. I've included it in the asset protection order. He can't touch it, can't transfer it, can't exercise it without court permission. By 10 o'clock that morning, the documents were filed. By 11:30, a process server named Mike was on his way to Robert's office building downtown. I should have gone home. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop across the street from Robert's building and waited. At 12:47 p.m., my phone rang. Robert. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? What the hell did you do? His voice was pure rage. The mask completely dropped. I filed for divorce, Robert. I thought that's what you wanted. You froze our accounts. You took money. You can't do this. I took exactly half of what was in our joint accounts. My half. And yes, I can do this. I did do this. You're going to regret this, Catherine. Do you have any idea what you've done? I protected myself from a husband who was planning to screw me over. Tell me, Robert, when were you going to file? This weekend? Next week? Silence. Long, damning silence. Did Vanessa enjoy watching you get served? I asked. Was she standing right there when it happened? You vindictive bitch. No, Robert, I'm not vindictive. I'm smart, and you mistook one for the other your entire life. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt more alive than I had in years. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. If you've ever stood up for yourself after years of being diminished, you know this feeling. And if you're still waiting for your moment, subscribe to this channel because I want you to see how this ends. You deserve to know that standing up for yourself is worth it. Robert showed up at the house at 7 o'clock that evening. I'd changed the locks that afternoon. Jennifer had told me I had every right to do so since I had an ownership stake in the property. He pounded on the door. Catherine, open this door, I called the police first. Then I opened the door with the chain still on. You need to leave, Robert. This is my house. It's our house, and you're not on the deed alone. I filed a temporary order requesting you move out until the divorce is finalized. You'll be served with that tomorrow. His face was purple with rage. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. The police are on their way. You can leave now, or you can leave in handcuffs for trespassing. Your choice. He stood there, breathing hard, and I saw the exact moment he realized I wasn't bluffing. This wasn't the wife he knew. This wasn't the woman who'd spent 3 decades accommodating and appeasing. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Robert. Maybe Vanessa's apartment? I'm sure she'd love to have you. The police arrived 6 minutes later. Robert left before they could escort him out, throwing one last venomous look at me over his shoulder. I closed the door, locked it, and sat down on the floor of our entryway, my entryway now, and finally let myself cry. But I only let myself cry for 10 minutes. Then I washed my face, made myself tea, and opened my laptop. Emma called at 8:30. Mom, Dad just called me. He's saying crazy things about you stealing money and changing locks. What's going on? I took a deep breath. Your father and I are getting divorced. What? But why? What happened? He's been having an affair with his secretary. I found out and I filed first. Silence. Then, oh my God. Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, sweetheart. I'm doing what I should have done the moment I found out. Does Jack know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you both myself, not let you hear it from your father's version. His version? Mom, what is he telling people? That's when I learned about Robert's counter-narrative. He was telling everyone who would listen that I'd had a mental breakdown, that I was acting erratically, that I'd stolen money and kicked him out for no reason, that he was the victim of a vindictive, unstable woman going through menopause. Emma was furious. That's complete bullshit. Language, I said automatically, then laughed. But yes, it is. Do you have proof of the affair? Hundreds of text messages, emails, credit card statements, everything. Good, because Dad called me crying saying you'd gone crazy and he didn't understand why you were doing this to him. I almost believed him. He's very good at playing the victim. Jack called an hour later. I told him the same story. His response was different from Emma's. I'm coming home. Jack, you don't need to. Mom, you're going through a divorce. I'm coming home. I'll be there tomorrow. My son, who I'd raised to be strong and protective, was coming to protect me. I cried again, but this time from gratitude. Jennifer called me 3 days after the filing. We need to meet. I found something. In her office, she spread documents across the conference table, bank statements from accounts I'd never seen before, credit cards in Robert's name only, statements from a brokerage firm I didn't recognize. What am I looking at? I asked. Your husband has been hiding money for at least 2 years. He set up separate accounts and transferred funds systematically, never large enough amounts to trigger alerts, but consistently. There's roughly $400,000 in these accounts. I felt sick. $400,000? And this. She showed me more statements. He's been paying Vanessa's rent, $2,000 a month for the last 8 months, from marital funds. The betrayal kept getting deeper. It wasn't enough that he was cheating. He was funding his mistress's lifestyle with our money. With my money. There's more, Jennifer said grimly. He took out a personal loan 3 months ago, $75,000. I'm still tracking down where that money went, but I have suspicions. He was building an escape fund, I said slowly. He was planning this. He absolutely was. But here's the good news. Every dollar he hid, every payment to Vanessa, every secret account, it's all dissipation of marital assets. The court will order him to pay you back every penny, plus sanctions for hiding it. Over the next 2 weeks, Jennifer's team uncovered more. A second phone line Robert had been paying for, undoubtedly Vanessa's. Expensive jewelry purchases that had never made it to me, weekend trips to expensive resorts, charged to credit cards I didn't know existed, payments to a luxury car dealership. Robert had apparently leased Vanessa a BMW. Each discovery was a fresh wound, but also armor, evidence, ammunition. Robert's attorney, Gerald Hutchinson, reached out to propose a settlement meeting. Jennifer and I sat across from them in a neutral conference room. Robert couldn't look at me. Gerald did all the talking. My client is willing to offer a 60-40 split of assets, with Mrs. Mitchell receiving 40% in exchange for a quick, quiet dissolution. Jennifer didn't even blink. 60-40? In a community property state? You're joking. Given Mrs. Mitchell's actions, freezing accounts, changing locks, making unilateral decisions, we feel this is generous. Your client committed adultery, hid hundreds of thousands of dollars in marital assets, used marital funds to support his mistress, and you think he's in a position to offer less than 50%. Let me be clear. We're asking for 60-40, with my client receiving 60, plus reimbursement for every dollar he dissipated, plus sanctions, plus attorney's fees. Gerald started to argue, but Jennifer cut him off. We have documentation of everything, text messages, emails, bank statements, receipts, every hotel room, every dinner, every gift he bought for Vanessa Pierce, while telling his wife they needed to budget more carefully. Every dollar he hid while his wife of 34 years managed the household on an allowance. We're prepared to put all of it on the record in open court. How do you think that will look for Mr. Mitchell's reputation at his firm? Robert's face went white. So here's my counteroffer, Jennifer continued. 60-40 split in my client's favor, full reimbursement of dissipated assets, he pays all legal fees, and this is done in 30 days, or we go to trial and let a judge decide. 3 days after that meeting, Robert's world started falling apart in ways I hadn't even orchestrated. Emma called me with news. "Mom, did you know Dad's company is investigating him?" "What?" "Aunt Patricia's husband works in HR there. He said there's an investigation into Dad's relationship with Vanessa. Apparently, they have policies about supervisor-subordinate relationships, and Dad never disclosed it. They're looking into whether he gave her preferential treatment, unearned bonuses, promotions she didn't deserve." I hadn't even thought about that angle, but it made perfect sense. Robert was a VP. Vanessa was his secretary. Their relationship violated company policy. "There's more," Emma continued. "Vanessa's married." "What?" "Yeah, her husband found out about the affair. I guess someone at Dad's office told him. And he's filing for divorce, too. And he's threatening to sue Dad for alienation of affection. Washington State didn't have alienation of affection laws, but the fact that Vanessa had been married this whole time was devastating for Robert's narrative. He wasn't a man who'd fallen in love with a single young woman. He was a man who'd helped destroy 2 marriages. The investigation at Robert's firm moved quickly. Within a week, he was placed on administrative leave pending the results. The company took these matters seriously. They'd been sued before for hostile work environment claims and weren't taking chances. Vanessa was transferred to a different department, away from Robert, away from the position he'd apparently created for her that paid $20,000 more than comparable positions. Jack, who'd been staying with me, showed me something he'd found on social media. Vanessa's Instagram account, which she'd made private but not before. Jack's girlfriend had screenshot several posts. Pictures of expensive dinners, designer bags, luxury vacations, all in the last 8 months. All funded, I now knew, by my husband with my money. One caption stood out: "Living my best life with someone who finally appreciates me. Blessed, upgraded life." She actually hashtagged upgraded life, Jack said, disgusted. "Like she's a better version of you." "In her mind, she probably is," I said quietly. "You're not going to let them get away with this, right, Mom?" I looked at my son, 29 years old, looking at me with fierce protectiveness. "I'm not letting anyone get away with anything," Jennifer called that afternoon with an update. "Robert's attorney wants to talk settlement again. I think the company investigation scared him." "What are they offering?" 55-45 split in your favor, full reimbursement of proven dissipated assets, each party pays their own legal fees. No. No? I want 60-40. I want full reimbursement. I want him to pay my legal fees. He set up this game. He can pay for playing it. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "Catherine, I have to tell you, that's aggressive. We might not get all of it. Then we go to trial. I have time. I have evidence. What I don't have is any remaining patience for men who think they can treat women as disposable." "All right," Jennifer said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Let's do it." Robert's attorney called back 2 days later. They accepted our terms. The final settlement hearing was scheduled for November 15th, 2024, 6 weeks after I'd first seen that text message. 6 weeks that felt like 6 years. I wore a gray suit and pearl earrings my mother had given me. Professional, dignified. The opposite of the crazy, unstable woman Robert had tried to paint me as. Robert showed up looking haggard. He'd lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. Vanessa, notably, was not with him. The judge, a woman in her early 60s named Judge Patricia Harmon, reviewed the settlement terms with both parties. 60% of all marital assets to me. That included the house in Madison Park, which I could buy out his interest in or sell and split proceeds. I chose to keep it and refinance. 60% of his retirement accounts, which amounted to roughly $1.4 million. 60% of investment portfolios. Half of the vested value of his stock options, plus 60% of any appreciation during the marriage. Full reimbursement of all dissipated. Assets: $400,000 from hidden accounts, $16,000 paid toward Vanessa's rent, $45,000 in jewelry, vacations, and gifts, $32,000 for the BMW lease, and various other expenses totaling another $20,000. Total reimbursement, $513,000. Plus, Robert was responsible for all attorney's fees, mine and his. That was another $80,000. Judge Harmon looked at Robert over her reading glasses. "Mr. Mitchell, do you understand these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor." His voice was barely audible. "And you agree to them voluntarily?" "Yes, Your Honor." "I want to be very clear about something," Judge Harmon said, and her tone made both attorneys sit up straighter. "This court takes the dissipation of marital assets very seriously. Mr. Mitchell, you systematically hid money from your spouse, used marital funds to support an extramarital relationship, and attempted to position yourself for a favorable divorce at her expense. This settlement is more than fair. It's merciful. If this had gone to trial, my ruling would have been harsher." Robert said nothing. "Mrs. Mitchell," the judge turned to me, "I'm granting your dissolution. This marriage is legally ended as of today. All settlement terms are enforceable as of this moment. Mr. Mitchell has 90 days to complete all asset transfers and payments, or you can return to this court for enforcement." She banged her gavel. Just like that, 34 years of marriage ended with a wooden hammer hitting a desk. In the hallway afterward, Robert approached me while Jennifer was talking to the court clerk. "Catherine." Don't," I said quietly. "I just want you to know—" "I don't care what you want me to know, Robert. I don't care about your excuses or your regrets or whatever you think you need to say to feel better about yourself." "She left me," he said suddenly. "Vanessa. The day I got put on administrative leave, she broke it off." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd loved for most of my adult life. This stranger who'd betrayed me in every way possible. "Good," I said. "Now you can figure out what it's like to be alone after giving everything to someone who saw you as disposable." I walked away and didn't look back. The house felt different after everything was finalized. Lighter somehow, even though it was the same house Robert and I had shared for 30 years. I hired an interior designer. We repainted. New furniture in the living room. Turned Robert's home office into an art studio. I'd always wanted to paint but never had time. We renovated the master bathroom, replacing everything that reminded me of him. The money from the settlement was more than I'd expected. After paying off the house entirely and putting a substantial amount into secure investments, I had enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. More than comfortably, actually. In December, 2 months after the filing, I got an unexpected call. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Karen Chen from Pacific Tech Solutions. I worked with you back in 1995. I don't know if you remember—" "Karen? Of course I remember you. I heard through the grapevine that you might be looking for consulting opportunities. We're looking for someone with your expertise to help build out our client relations department. I know it's been a long time since you worked in the field, but—" "I'm interested," I said immediately. By January, I was working 3 days a week as a senior consultant, making more money than I'd ever made in my 20s, and loving every minute of it. Turned out my skills hadn't disappeared. They'd just been dormant. Emma and Jack both called regularly. They'd both cut contact with Robert, not because I asked them to, but because they'd each tried to maintain relationships with him and been disappointed by what they found. The man who called them crying about money problems had somehow afforded a new sports car. The father who claimed he wanted to rebuild their relationships kept canceling visits. "He's only interested in us when he wants sympathy," Emma told me during one of her visits. "But he's not actually interested in our lives." I didn't say, "I told you so." I just listened. In March, Patricia called to tell me that Robert had been let go from his company. The investigation had found multiple policy violations. His reputation in Seattle's financial sector was damaged beyond repair. I felt nothing when I heard the news. Not satisfaction, not pity, nothing. In April, I went on my first date in 35 years. A man named Thomas I'd met through work. It was awkward and strange, and I came home after 2 hours. But I went on a second date the following week, and a third. I'm not sure where it's going, and honestly, I'm not in a hurry to figure it out. Here's what I learned through all of this. You're never too old to start over. You're never too old to stand up for yourself. You're never too old to reclaim your life. That text message, "Your wife is too old for you," was meant to diminish me. Instead, it woke me up. I'm 59 now. I have my house, my career, my children, and my self-respect. I have friends who stood by me and a lawyer who fought for me. I have a future I'm building on my own terms. And Robert, he has exactly what he deserves. Nothing he didn't earn himself, and everything he created through his choices. Sometimes, justice isn't about revenge. It's just about refusing to be diminished.